The world you know. How well do you really know it? I'll show it to you. Everything you know. And everything you don't. Everything you want to know. And everything you don't. So, let's get started. So, you're watching this on either a computer or your phone right now. An illusion put up on an LED screen, controlled by transistors and powered by electricity. Over 150 years ago, we figured out how to force electrons to flow through a wire. And that has changed everything. We can light up any darkness. And all we had for all of history was lanterns and the tiny flames of candlelight. Air conditioning and heating. You can set your home to whatever temperature you want, when all we had for all of our existence was the ability to huddle around fires when the winter came. Refrigeration. You can preserve whatever food you want to have whenever you want. You can get on a computer or a phone. You can learn whatever you want. Talk to whoever you want. In the past, you had to rely on couriers on horseback, or for letters to be carried across the sea over the course of months. In the past, all of this was all there was. But we don't live in that world anymore. You've never felt it. You've never seen it. And you can't even imagine it, no matter how much I describe it to you. And neither can I. So how does everything we know come about? Metal. Metal and magnets. Most metals don't have all their electrons on lockdown like other elements do. No, they float around them like a sea. And in copper, they're particularly loose. So you coil it by the ton, seal it onto the rotor, and then you spin it. Spin it in between two magnets. And when it spins between those magnetic fields, well, electrons have charge. And they're floating free, and the law of magnetism stands absolute. They have to move. They go racing along the wire, compelled by the laws of this reality to hurtle towards the opposite end. So then we run the wire out, through the power plant, out through the city, into your home and back again. So you see now the electrons have to follow the wire, and the wires lead through your lights, through your TV, through your fridge, your oven, your computer, hot water heater, air conditioning, even your phone charger. And as the electricity goes racing through them, it all comes to life. So how do you turn hundreds of tons of copper over and over again all day long? Methods vary. The very first thing we ever tried was essentially giant water wheels connected to a generator, and eventually these gave way to dams. As long as the flow of a river is strong enough, the water moving through will turn a turbine, and the turbine spins the coils inside the generator. But this only works with a river, so what about everywhere else? Well, we burned stuff. We'd already learned how powerful steam could be at high pressure, propelling locomotives and steam engines for the longest time. So we just applied the same principle. We feed coal into a furnace underneath a water tank, constantly keep each one filled, and the fire burning keeps the water boiling. Steam will keep rushing out, and the turbine will keep spinning as the steam goes through it. We do pretty much the same thing with natural gas, just with an extra twist. Shoot out a jet of burning gas, and the superheated air expands so fast, and then it's forced to rush through the confined space of the turbine. So it spins the turbine and spins the generator. Then the hot air is stopped up to transfer its heat to the water. Then you know what happens once the steam's generated. We also went nuclear. Align some uranium rods, trigger a slow fission reaction, then just seal the reactor. The reaction heats the rods to almost 1,000 degrees, and then just surround them with water, because you know what happens after that. Recently, we also tried getting into wind. It essentially works the same as hydro. If the wind's blowing strong enough, it'll turn the blades. The blades will spin the coils, and you know what happens from there. However, it's only viable in areas that experience strong wind on a regular basis. We've even started trying out solar thermal, where we align a bunch of mirrors, hundreds, thousands even, reflect as much sunlight as we can onto a tower that we pump water up into, and when all that sunlight's focused on the tower superheats. The water boils in it, and the steam's given one direction to go, through the turbine. But the obvious is this only is functional in places with abundant sunlight, year-round sunny days, stuff like that. Some lucky places like Iceland that sit on top of really geologically active regions of the Earth get to use something called geothermal. They drill 2 holes down to where the Earth is several hundred degrees, which in most places you would have to go miles down to get that hot. But in places like Iceland, you only have to go a few thousand feet. So they flush water down one of the holes, and boiling superheated steam comes rushing up the other, straight into the turbine. So what's the fair share of each of these? Well, the majority of electricity worldwide is generated by burning coal and natural gas. Nuclear power and river dams make up almost the entire rest of it, and almost everything else barely makes a mark. Every one of these routes to production gives you the same end result, but all of them carry different considerations. Wind and solar power are only available in specific regions, and they're not completely reliable. Burning coal and natural gas gives off emissions. As long as we're willing to mine it, there's enough coal for centuries, even a millennium. But natural gas is far less abundant, and we're using it up far, far more quickly. Nuclear power doesn't generate any emissions, though it does leave hazardous waste that needs to be guarded. With a combination of thorium reactors and extracting uranium from seawater, nuclear power can remain an option for several millennia to come. In theory, you could deplete the heat in a particular area of the Earth's crust, but this would take tens of thousands of years, giving geothermal an effectively indefinite reliability horizon, though it also is restricted to certain areas and regions. With regards to human timescales, rivers will essentially always be there, but their dams have to be repaired and maintained, and even with as much, still need to eventually be replaced and rebuilt every century or so. Nothing's perfect, but if you want everything you know to function every day, you have to pick one. One way or another, they're all a part of the world you know. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this all the way through. Really like to thank you especially for that. This is one of the biggest projects I've ever done. I had to gather so much stock footage. So this in particular, normally my videos I could get done in a day. They take like 5-6 hours. This took a week's worth of work, and by a week's worth of work I mean like 6 hours every day. So if you liked it, then please like it. And go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, because by all means there'll be more of this to come. Oh, and before you leave, don't forget to consider passing me all of your money. Primarily because I do not in any way deserve it, and I will spend it all on German chocolate. Patreon link is now on the screen in front of you. Or consider checking out someone who actually does deserve all of your money. His name's Ryan, and he is funny because I said so. Farewell.